Carved into the limestone walls of the temple of Hathor at Dendera is an image that looks, at first, like an ordinary harvest scene. A god stands over a heavy wooden press, twisting the beam with both arms. Read the hieroglyphs beside him and the harvest changes. He is not pressing grapes, he is pressing skulls. His name was Shezmu. In Middle Egyptian, it is written Shezmu, the presser. The scribes did not always bother drawing him as a figure. Often, they simply carved the tool itself, a crude symbol of a bag press, and everyone reading it understood exactly which god they meant. To understand Shezmu is to understand a truth the ancient Egyptians accepted, and modern audiences rarely do. The machine that makes something beautiful and the machine that destroys something completely can be the exact same machine. For most of Egyptian history, the beauty came first. In the great temple laboratories, chambers the Egyptians called the Perwabet, the pure place, priests turned to Shezmu as the god of scent. Egypt had no distillation. Every perfume, every embalming oil, every fragrance burned before the gods had to be pressed and steeped by hand, the same way it had been done since before Egyptian writing existed. The vocabulary alone tells you how old this craft was. The scribes had dedicated words for wine, for raisins, for grapevines, for the press itself, a whole specialized language built around Shezmu's domain centuries before the pyramids. Shezmu oversaw the physical process. Sesame, moringa, pine kernel, almond, and castor oil, heated slowly, then packed with crushed flower petals and resin inside twisted linen bags. The bag was wrung tight between two wooden poles until the fragrant oil bled out. The Egyptians had a phrase for it. They said Shezmu was stealing the souls of flowers. In the temples of the late period, he became something closer to a master chemist, overseeing the creation of the 7 sacred oils, the exact formulas used every morning to anoint the cold stone statues of the gods and, ritually, bring them back to life for the day. This was not decoration. In a climate as brutal as Egypt's, oil was survival. It protected skin from the sun, sealed out insects, and most critically, preserved the dead. During the 70 days of mummification, Shezmu's oils, alongside the goddess Meret's, were what kept a body from becoming nothing at all. Without him, there was no path to the afterlife. He was, in this form, gentle, necessary. A chemist standing quietly over a workbench of jars. But every temple wall that shows Shezmu holding a jar of perfume has a companion carving somewhere else, and in that carving he is not gentle at all. When an Egyptian soul stood before the scales of Ma'at and had their heart weighed against a single feather, failure did not mean a quiet ending. It meant Shezmu. The Book of the Dead names him directly, the headsman, the one who carries out the sentence of the damned on the night they are burned. He was said to lasso the wicked like wild animals and drag them to his slaughter block. There, the same mechanical process that pressed a flower now pressed a skull. Linen bag, wooden beam, twist. What came out was not oil. The Coffin Texts describe him standing over a cauldron so large it was given its own name, a woman's name, because to the Egyptians, a vessel that consumed had to be a living thing. His mane, in this form, was soaked in blood. He wore a belt made of human skulls, and it clinked when he walked. And here is the detail that made this god so unsettling to the people who worshipped him. For the virtuous dead, the wine served at the table of the gods was described as sweet, ordinary grape juice, a gift from a generous Shezmu meant to make the heart festive. For the wicked, that same red liquid, poured from the same god's hands, was something else entirely. It was themselves. This was not the only Egyptian myth built around that swap. In the story of Sekhmet, the lioness sent to punish humanity nearly drank the world dry of blood and was only stopped when the gods flooded the fields with beer dyed red to look exactly like it. She drank herself into a stupor before she noticed the difference. The Egyptians returned to this idea again and again. Blood and wine, indistinguishable, depending entirely on which god was pouring and why. This is not folklore repeated at a campfire. It is written into the oldest religious texts human beings have ever produced and carved into stone that still stands. Inside the pyramid of the pharaoh Unas, one of the earliest tombs in Egypt to be covered in written spells, there is a passage scholars now call the cannibal hymn. It describes the king's death not as an ending, but as a hunt. Unas does not ascend peacefully into the sky. He stalks the other gods one by one and consumes them, absorbing their power into his own body. And the text names his chef. It is Shezmu who cuts them apart, Shezmu who boils them limb by limb in his fire-stoked pots. 1,000 years later, when the Coffin Texts opened the afterlife to ordinary Egyptians, not just kings, Shezmu appears again, this time as a warning built into a spell. To pass safely through the underworld, the dead had to prove they knew the true name of a particular fishing net used to catch human souls. The correct answer, according to the spell, was Shezmu's cauldron. Get it wrong, and you were already caught. By the New Kingdom, his role had calcified into something closer to a job title. Chief Executioner, mutilator of the enemies of Osiris, the one who reads out the sentence on the night of burning. And the evidence isn't only textual. At Dendera, temple carvers gave him 2 full bodies on the same wall, a lion-headed figure holding jars of ointment labeled Lord of the Laboratory, and a human-headed figure carrying raw cuts of meat surrounded by inscriptions boasting that he slays every beast of the desert and strikes down every rebel. Even ordinary Egyptians carried his name. A small stone statuette recovered from the site of Lahun belongs to an official named Shezmu Hotep. Shezmu is pleased. Devotional names built on Shezmu are rare in the archaeological record, which makes this one small object into real proof that a real person once wore the executioner god's name into his own grave, hoping to stay on his good side. Even the harvest itself was treated as a kind of offering to him. At Saqqara, tomb carvings show young men hurling darts at a target during the grape harvest in a game explicitly labeled Shooting for Shezmu, a mock battle fought every year at the exact moment his gentler half took over the fields. Even the sky belonged to him, part-time. Each day, Ra crossed the heavens in his solar boat, escorted by Nefertum, the gentle god of the blue lotus, whose scent kept the journey calm and safe. But at dusk, when the boat sank into the most dangerous stretch of its crossing, Nefertum stepped aside and Shezmu took the helm. The Egyptians looked at the blood-red sunset and didn't see refracted light. They saw evidence, the blood of the chaos monsters Shezmu was slaughtering in the dark to keep the sun's boat from being swallowed before morning. He's carved into the astronomical ceilings of late temples as a deacon, a named star riding his own boat through the permanent night above the permanent day, doing the same violent work above the earth that he did beneath it. So which one was he? The chemist or the executioner? The honest answer is that the Egyptians never asked the question that way. To them, creation and destruction were not opposites competing for the same god. They were stages of a single continuous machine. Cannibal-butcher in the age of the pyramids, to an underworld judge in the age of the Coffin Texts, to a refined temple chemist by the time Rome ruled the Nile. To get the scent of myrrh, something has to be crushed first. To keep the sun alive through the night, something else has to die. Shezmu was not two gods sharing one name. He was proof that mercy and violence can share a mechanism, and that the difference between them was never about the god. It was about which side of the press you were standing on. The next time you see a bottle of perfume or a stone bowl painted red at the base, consider what Dendera's priests already knew and what they carved into their walls so no one would forget it. Somewhere behind every luxury there is a press, and somewhere behind every press there is a god deciding what you deserve to come out as.